you somebody that's maybe struggling with your weight or looking just to eat healthier and bulk up? I have a really special guest for you. His name is Devon and he owns Vital Nutrition. So if you're somebody here in Marion County, you actually might be able and qualify for him and his team to service you. You actually could have a dietitian assist you with your eating, weight loss. If you have food allergies, if you have IBS, so many different things dietitians can do. I myself went to school for dietetics, so I am really excited about this interview and I have so many great questions for him. We're going to talk about so many different things. We're going to talk about healthy eating. We're going to find out some of his thoughts on the food and his thoughts about Ocala and just so many different things. So you're not going to want to miss this. So let's go check it out. All right, Devon, well, tell us a little bit about what you do. We kind of already talked about it a bit, but...
Yeah. So my name is Devon. I am a registered dietitian. I've been a dietitian practicing for over a decade. I went to undergrad at Michigan State. I got my master's at Texas A&M in Kingsville, Texas, and came to Ocala. So I've been in Ocala my entire career, working from the clinical bedside role all the way to leadership in the hospital. And then I went into a sales role in home health, which led me to kind of understanding the role of healthcare, insurance, billing, business and development, branding. And I decided to open my own company under my own umbrella, hire dietitians, and do things on my own terms. So what I do is I work with people, whether it's trying to prevent a medical concern, treating a medical concern, picking my brain about nutrition, looking into myths, facts, things that are maybe non-factual, self-affirming beliefs regarding nutrition, and helping people understand the nuances of nutrition, but in a way that's personalized. And I think that what I've learned in the last 10 years is nutrition should be personalized based on people's, status, demographics, culture, what they're able to do on a day-to-day basis, and not make it more about like cookie cutter, because no one really is cookie cutter. Everybody is different. So the biggest thing is I provide that different non-cookie cutter based nutrition that meets people's needs where they're at.
Yeah, no, I think that's the one thing that that is, in my opinion, one of the biggest things that differs a nutritionist from a dietitian is like, as a dietitian, I went to dietetic school. So like if you are a dietitian, you're really taught how to properly assess the person, their income bracket, what is realistic for them. Like obviously you can't go tell somebody who is in a lower income bracket or maybe is a single mom with a bunch of kids, you can't tell them to go buy like organic vegetables. Like while that's great and wonderful and good, like they just don't have the money for that. So if you're like talking up over their head, like I don't know, you're doing that person a huge disservice in the long run.
Yeah, exactly. And the big thing I said with the nutritionist dietitian thing is I always tell people a nutritionist wouldn't walk into an ICU and see someone to help them figure out nutrition, right? Whereas a dietitian understands the science, physiological stuff going on, medicine. There's a lot that we learn to help kind of understand the medical side of nutrition. So because most people can generally say, eat your fruits and your vegetables, right? But some people may not be able to tolerate fruits and vegetables, right? So there's a need where that person understands physiologically what's going on. So it's that's the big thing with nutrition is it's everybody, their health concerns are different, but also if they're getting that information from someone that maybe is not credentialed or licensed to do it, sometimes you're getting the wrong information and leading people down the wrong road, which is what opens to like the supplement world and things like that we see online.
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't know. Unfortunately, dietitians just don't get the voice that they really should or the credit that they deserve, because it's not an easy job. It can be very difficult dealing with people and, coming up with good ways for them to eat, to be healthy, and keeping into account of like culture and economic status. And like, there's a lot that goes into it. And I think we act like it's very simple, but in reality, it's definitely not that easy.
I wish it was that easy.
I know it's very hard, especially like when you have people coming into the hospital who are, I don't know, of some type of ethnicity, and their culture, they're used to eating X way, and in reality they can't eat like that anymore. So now you've got to come up with a whole new meal plan and like break all of their cultural boundaries, and it's not fun.
Yeah.
It's not a good thing to tell people they can't eat their cultural food. Well, they can, just in limit.
Yeah.
It just makes things definitely complicated. So that kind of leads me into my next question. So what are like 3 easy steps to kind of like get yourself like on a healthier track that are not so mainstream? Like, obviously we want to eat fruits and vegetables, and I get that, but like maybe some, like, whether that be like, I don't know, you tell me.
So I think the biggest thing is to try to, obviously, the first step is saying, hey, I need to make improvement to what I'm doing. Whether it's like a lifestyle thing, more exercise, eating well, right? The first step is we need to recognize there's a need to change. And I think that a lot of people are okay with status quo with things, but I think it's if we start recognizing that our life is getting busy, we are starting to do more takeout, we are eating out of convenience, right? There's a strong correlation with more processed foods and the concern it brings for a lot of people. So I tell people the goal is that if we can find and eat food in its truest form, it does not matter if it's frozen, fresh, canned. The goal is whole foods in their truest form as best we can within the budget that we have will meet our needs the most, right? The goal is that we have some sort of protein in our diet, something lean, something cheap and inexpensive. It doesn't have to be an expensive cut of steak, but the goal is some sort of protein. And the amazing thing is that vegetables provide a lot of protein as well. So some people may not want to be so meat centric. So the goal is also finding alternatives to meat because some people in our society, based on medical conditions, may not be able to eat a lot of meat. So the goal is to find other options. And then obviously, as you mentioned, we want to eat fruits and vegetables, right? But how much is too much? And is sugar bad for us, right? We get this idea where fruit is inherently bad. The biggest thing is if we add enough things with fiber in our diet. So if we do whole fruits, whole vegetables in combination with lean proteins, we're able to give ourselves the nutrients that we need, right? And then we round that out with some sort of fat. And I think that we get this idea where I always ask people like, what do you think about fat? And then they think of like butter, they think of lard, they think of, frying food, right? But we need to have fat to function in our body. So the goal is to find healthful fats. And the goal is vegetable-based options as much as possible, minimally processed. I think we see a lot nowadays where there's this highlight on highly processed vegetable oils in general being a concern. There's a lot of studies that support vegetable oils being a benefit, but we want to make sure they're minimally processed. So if you can fit all that into your budget, and for most people, it is easy to eat well on a budget, but you need to stick to that budget and also stick to obviously things that you know and that you can afford.
I think you made a really good point about the seed oils and like vegetable oils and all of that. Like, I think it comes down to food in general. It comes down to the process. Like, I tell people all the time, they're like, well, it kind of leads me. We were going to talk about this about like the carnivore diet, and they're like, well, everybody should be eating like meat and like just a little bit of fruit and like this, that, or whatever. And I'm like, that's okay, but like if you don't have the money to go buy like grass-fed beef, like healthy cuts of beef, like you're really not eating very well, like because those cows, like unfortunately, like in our today's like society and the way things are, like we are literally feeding them, like it's okay to feed them like literal chicken manure with molasses, and that's what we're feeding them. So like you're eating the beef that's consuming that, so like that's not really healthy if you're consuming a ton of it. So I think it goes back to like figuring out what is the most realistic healthy diet. It doesn't mean that it's going to be trendy or just another version of keto or Atkins for the 100 bazillionth time. Because
Oh
when it
yeah.
comes down there, now carnivore's kind of going that way again. I thought it was very funny. Everybody's like, yeah, now we're going to add like some, low carb vegetables and like low carb fruits. And I'm like, so we're doing keto.
Yeah.
I
Or
think
just
it's so
shifting
funny.
back to a balanced diet. And
I
I think
know.
that I had a discussion with someone this morning about like 10 years ago, a decade ago, like when I started my career, it was about gluten. There was so much focus on gluten being this like end all be all. Like if you ate gluten, it was considered poison for your body. And, unless you have celiac disease, most gluten is not an issue. But we're starting to find out there's more autoimmune issues and a lot of inflammatory things with gluten. So there are some people that are sensitive to it. But we have people avoiding a whole food group, which is typically bread products, which are full of a lot of nutrients in those kind of diets. So just like anything else, carnivore is a diet in a way where it restricts certain food groups, inherently creating a caloric deficit. So I mean, like if we cut back on calories, right, we gain less weight, we feel a little bit better. The diet itself cuts out a lot of things like vegetables and fruit that may inherently cause GI concerns, right? And people are like, I feel better when I eat just carnivore, I eat nothing but meat. And you may feel better temporarily, but the concern is fiber is a benefit for a lot of people regarding overall health. Now, having said that, as I mentioned earlier, like there are certain fruits or vegetables that we may not tolerate. And that's why a dietitian has a role to help understand what fits in a diet to meet those nutrient needs. And obviously making sure that you have enough protein, but not making it the end all be all in your diet.
I think that's a good point there. And I also, again, I think everything goes back to the same with like gluten. Like I can't eat gluten, like it bothers me. But I think also it boils down to like the quality of the product. Because like I can order flour from France and Italy and I'm okay. But I think, but they don't spray it with pesticides. They don't, run it down so low, like they don't grind it down so far that we end up having to put enrichment things into it. And it just, I mean, the list could go on. So I think it comes down to like food quality and food, like how well we process our food here in America, that causes most health issues. Anyway, that's just my opinion. But I think basically what you're saying, it really boils down to like the quality. And if you can't afford good quality, then you got to kind of figure out in what box is best for you to give you like the most nutrients and the best options.
Yeah, it's the biggest thing. It comes down to, yeah, can you afford the quality of food that you want to eat to maintain your health? Um, it's yeah, and I have worked with people that are on food stamps, SNAP benefits, that are going to food banks. The options are sometimes minimal, but there's also the goal is to make sure food lasts longer. Sometimes fruits and vegetables don't last long, and it becomes very hard. I ask a lot of people, especially if they're on that demographic, like, do you have a freezer to store things, right? There's some certain things that people just don't have access to. So I mean, it is like you mentioned, like it's nice to do all these things, but sometimes it's not feasible for everybody. But yeah, I think a lot of the diets, keep people pressure to feel like they have to eat a certain way to fit into the narrative of what's considered healthy. But the goal is back to the basics of meeting your food groups, being active, managing stress.
Yeah.
Like all those things are very important.
I know there was somebody that was talking, a friend of mine was talking about how they had to completely give up meat, and just were eating beans and rice because food had gotten so expensive. And in reality, like, those dry beans and that rice really in some ways might be better for you than the really cheap cut of beef. Like at the end of the day, so it
Yeah.
kind of, I think the people really just underestimate the necessity of like having a dietitian if you grew up in a family in which food was not something that's seen as like actually beneficial for the body, not something only for enjoyment. Because I kind of came from that. Like my parents definitely were not overtly always healthy and always looked for easy ways to lose weight and to be healthy and all the above. Like I came from like a Mexican household, so we didn't always eat the most healthiest things in the world either. Love those foods, but I don't eat them very much anymore because of that. And so when you don't have that, I think in America across the board, we just lack real, true like nutrition, like education. Like I think fully.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it starts obviously at the home, right, where we learn
Yes.
about our the role nutrition plays in overall health, right? A lot of individuals now are very busy. There's a dual income household. People are both working, so education on nutrition is kind of left for, some of the public school systems or other people or influencers on the internet, right? A lot of kids may see like, this person on the internet said I shouldn't eat this, right? And if you as a parent don't have like the understanding or maybe the relationship with food that you should have, it goes into the child as well, right? And we see a world where like the internet may force a parent to overly restrict their child from not eating foods that are inherently good for them, right? And the kid grows up with a restrictive type diet pattern, which leads to them potentially eating foods that they were always told not to eat. And now it becomes a concern where they're over consuming those foods as an adult. So I have a lot of people that are, told not to eat candy their entire childhood. Well, they turn 18, they eat candy in large amounts, and it becomes more of an addictive thing at that point. So there is this happy medium and balance, but we have to educate about being mindful with food in general. But not to knock the school system, they do the best with what they're able to do. But I, as a dietitian, also see that sometimes the messaging is too abrasive for children to learn about nutrition as well. So it's important to be involved as a parent about what your kids are eating too, and working with a dietitian if you feel like your child's not eating well, or you as a family can benefit. I have families that come see me that are like, let's do this as a family, because nutrition is not going to improve if the family doesn't improve. So it comes back to the home. I was raised by a yo-yo diet or single mom. I don't know how many nights I had cabbage soup because my mom ate cabbage soup every day for a diet. Um, but I learned the biggest thing is that McDonald's was expensive growing up. We didn't eat McDonald's because a home cooked meal was less expensive than going to McDonald's, regarding the amount of work it took to go do that, and then not being able to make it from scratch. My mom, we lived out of a crock pot. If my mom had to work two jobs, we ate out of a crock pot. Whole foods in a crock pot. Dinner was ready when you came home. You turned from hot down to medium or low and let it sit there until mom got home and we had dinner. So I learned that those meals at home are super important, and that they need to be nutrient dense. And that's what I work with most people is it does not have to be expensive. It has to be planned out a little bit more, but it doesn't have to be expensive.
Yeah, no, I agree. I kind of had somewhere in the middle on that. Like as a kid, like while my parents were not always the most healthiest and we didn't always do things the best, my mom always did cook at home, so that was something that we always had. So I'm kind of the same as you, where I find a lot of value in eating at home, eating with your family. And I think we've kind of lost that in the US. And I think that's kind of a root into like some of the issues that we have. I don't know, you could correct me if I'm wrong, but that's kind of my perspective on it anyway.
If you go down any road, you're going to see an overabundance of fast food in places that, are heavily marketed. There's a lot more money and investment into a lot of the companies that make inherently making us, unhealthy, whether it's food or medicine, right? There's a lot of marketing, a lot of money put into those because those are multi-billion-dollar companies that want to continue to making money. And so we are, and they make things seem inherently healthy. And then you buy them and they're not really that healthy for you, right? But they're marketed as such, right? It's the whole idea where they used to say smoking would cure all issues, and we found out smoking wasn't good for you, right? It's one of those things. You market things really well, it'll sound better than it is. But that's when you have experts to say, like, is this true? Is this information really true? So, but I think you touched earlier about obviously being culturally sensitive, right? In the Hispanic culture, like, there's an overconsumption of things that are great sources of energy, right? But when we stop becoming active, when we stop having to go to the store, make our meals, it's easier just to order it on an app and it comes to our house. I have a lot of people that just don't leave their home anymore. They work from home, their food's delivered to their home, they don't get out of a chair all day. Those are things that I think are working against Americans' health. It's not, sometimes it's not the food, it's just that we've made life so easy to not be healthy.
I think that's true too. I definitely agree. I kind of want to go a little bit back
Yeah.
to like talking about things being marketed really well. So I know there are a lot of like new soda products on the market, all kinds like Poppy and a couple others. I'm actually allergic to Poppy. I can't have that. But I can't have chicory root. So if it has chicory root in it, which they seem to be like adding that to all of them. I'm not really sure what the like reasoning is. I guess maybe for that like caramel flavor, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. So yeah, you mentioned like a lot of functional sodas
Yeah.
and things that are made with not with sugar, with coconut sugar and a lot of the alternatives and things like that, right? The biggest thing with all of these things, I always tell people, if you like remove an ingredient from something, you've got to replace it with something similar tasting, looking, coloring, whatever it is, to make it look like the original product, right? And sometimes those artificial things or the swap outs, even chicory root, or I see a lot of things having inulin in them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Inulin causes an upset stomach for people with IBS.
Oh.
Someone's like, oh, like I'm drinking this functional soda, it says it'll help with my gut health. Well, they may have IBS or a gut health issue that I had someone this morning that was like, oh, I'm drinking Poppy and I'm having these horrible gas pains.
Oh God.
And I'm like, do you have IBS? Like, oh yeah. And I'm like, that's because of the soda. So what's considered healthful, right? And it's marketed. The side of it says great for gut health. And, this has been a buzzword, gut health, right? We talk about gut health. And it is good, but the wrong type of fiber for the wrong person will cause a horrible problem internally. And that's kind of where I talk with people about like the source of fiber and the difference of the types of fiber. But yeah, I always tell people like artificial sweeteners and things like that, they may be more damaging on the gut lining than regular sugar would be, right? But as dietitians, our goal is not to encourage more sugar consumption, but we have to know that there's side effects from any alternative to an original product.
I know now, what is under erythritol is under. I know that's an issue, which I'm not really too surprised. I mean, that was very synthetically made anyway. It's a lot.
Erythritol, yeah,
A lot of it was.
sorbitol, yeah, a lot of there are a lot of like sugar-free. If you find like sugar-free energy drinks, anything sugar-free, they have sugar alcohol. So sugar alcohols tend to cause more gas, bloating. They also can increase obviously blood sugar for people that thought, oh, this is sugar-free. So it's super important to be aware that sometimes the sugar-free is not sugar-free.
Yeah.
Not for at least what the body's doing with it. But yeah,
I
and there's a
think
lot of studies with long-term use of some of these things, and then dysbiosis, where your stomach isn't working the way it's supposed to, and nutrients don't absorb the way they're supposed to.
Oh God, Jesus.
So
And the new one I think for replacement is allulose,
allulose.
allulose. Yeah.
So a product called Swerve, and
Okay.
so Swerve is a mix of allulose and stevia,
Okay.
and they're more of a natural form of sweetener that is non-nutritive. Um, that I have good results with some people that are looking for that sweetness that you would get from sugar. So those are usually more natural because they're based on a leaf. So I mean,
Yeah.
like we found leaves in nature that don't have sugar in them per se, but they have a sweetness to them. Having said that, there is still calories in everything we eat. Even something's considered 0 calories, you eat enough of it, there's calories in it. Having said that, it's hard to know how much, but most servings of things may be like a teaspoon or a half teaspoon. So if you're putting in 6, 7 tablespoons of something to sweeten it, it's not zero. So the biggest thing is also the amount that we're consuming is important.
I think that's true. I like stevia because if you put too much, it gets real bitter.
Bitter, yeah.
So you're not gonna overindulge, I feel like, with it. I just feel like it's the most natural. It's been around, I think, probably one of the longest, and really hasn't had too many bad side effects for the most part.
No, it's just a flavor profile thing, right?
Yeah, most people don't like it because it's not very pleasant. But it's the only one that that doesn't give me a headache. A lot of the artificial stuff, I always end up with a migraine. It's the trigger for me, so I can't do except stevia. That's the only thing I've ever been able to like really tolerate and be fine with. So I'm thankful for it at least, because if not, because I try not to do too much sugar. But then again, I think I personally have kind of went back to like just less sugar, just do sugar but less sugar, because I'm like, if at least we know in the long run, I know if I eat too much sugar, what the side effect's gonna be. Like, it's not.
You have to weigh it out, right?
Yeah.
Do you need that sugar? Is the sugar, as I said, it's a great source of energy. Our body utilizes sugar. Our brain runs on glucose, right? What we get from sugar. It's one of those things, yeah, there's calories in it. So the more you consume, there's always that risk that you take. But there is always your risk reward when it comes to different things and replacing them. So
yeah, no, I agree. So how has it been so far? How long have you been in business, and then like how's it been being in business here in Marion County?
So I've been in Marion County as a dietitian for 12 years here in Marion County. So I have been a private practice dietitian owning a company for just under a year. So I'm new to the business space. I tried it out when I started my career working with some local gyms and kind of gotten a feel for like the private practice, business entrepreneurial stuff. But I didn't fully understand entrepreneurship until I actually went into sales and became a sales area manager for a company and realized that I could sell dietetics. So I've been in like an entrepreneur for almost 3 years now, just kind of running my business and learning how to run a business. But here in Ocala, in a private practice space, in about under a year.
Okay, and how's it been so far being here in Ocala?
The great thing about being in Ocala and still have been here for a decade, I have connected with a lot of local healthcare providers, other entrepreneurs, people that are essentially my referral sources for what I do. I've made a lot of amazing connections by just being here. It's gone well. A lot of people, I tell a lot of dietitians that obscurity is a big barrier when you go into private practice. If no one knows you exist, you don't have a business. Being a dietitian in itself is not going to create value for a lot of people because of the internet, because everybody's a nutritionist. Everybody kind of knows their thing. Dietitians, unless they're marketed well, no one knows they exist. So a lot of my referral sources now didn't know I existed a year ago, and now they're sending me referrals daily because they realize there's a dietitian in town that's unattached to the hospitals. And I think the biggest thing is, some people may have their favorite hospital that they go to or favorite doctor. I'm not biased. I believe in healthcare being provided equally, but I'm not connected to any healthcare hospital here. So they can see me as a freestanding a bystander of the healthcare system that knows that we can prevent health issues from happening. So a lot of people are just like, you're an amazing benefit to have in Ocala. And then I've had to understand that the space that I'm in, it is driven by obviously either people paying cash or doing insurance. So I accept most major insurances, which has been an amazing benefit to Marion County because a lot of my demographic that come to see me may have a lower income insurance. They may also have a higher income insurance. So I'm able to help more people where they're at, and sometimes at a zero cost to them, which has been amazing.
Yeah, no, I think that's super great, and I like the insurance now. I know when I was in school, they were talking about insurance, paying for dietitians and all of that stuff. So I know that I'm happy to hear that actually like went through and was something that actually happened, because it's a really good resource. And it's definitely going to be, you're a great resource for anybody, but it's just better than going to like some local nutritionist around the corner that can't deal with your issues. And like you were able to tell the guy that, you probably shouldn't be drinking that because you have do you have X, Y, and Z issues? Yeah, I do. Okay, well, your local nutritionist just doesn't know that because they're not taught the whole system of the body and like how everything is processed. I can tell you, I saw the cycle of like food and how your body processes it, and I know you have too, more than I ever wanted to. It's just like, do I have to see the same diagram again for like the 20th time? So no, I definitely get it. It's just, it is what it is. So I know you've been here in Ocala for about 12 years, you said. So
yeah,
I know it definitely has been through some changes in those 12 years. It was kind of slow Ocala when you were first here, I'm sure.
Yeah, so when I came to Ocala 12 years ago, A lot of it was underdeveloped, and I I had lived by the market streets of Heathbrook when I moved in, so I lived over on that side of town, the west side of town, and my wife and I went for walks, and we would go out and we looked at the mall there. We're like, oh, like there's a restaurant coming and this and that. I did not realize that during the stock market crash and everything that happened, like that place had shut down, putting stores in altogether, and a lot of those places were never going to come. So like at that time, like the economy there, it wasn't good, but I worked in healthcare, so like I knew living in Florida, there was plenty of people to help working in a hospital. But in the last 10 years, I have seen the growth and the move of a lot of people from outside of Ocala coming here to see this small little town that is accessible to most of Florida, but it's quieter, it's got trails, it's got things to do, it's got a moderate nightlife. It's got a lot of things for a family like mine that was growing that didn't need all the big lights and things from the big city. It's worked out great for us to obviously adapt living in Florida. And I'm from a horse farm town in Michigan, so
Okay.
this is home for me with palm trees. That's what I tell people. Like I lived near a big farm, a cornfield growing up. So this isn't far off from what I'm used to, but I think Ocala has grown definitely, but what it does, it allows me to have access and to help more people. So the more people that move to Marion County, the better it is for my business, for what I do. Because a lot of people have realized the role of nutrition and improving your health plays a big role. And I think because it has been very politicized and it's very all over social media, having a dietitian available to people here has been an amazing thing. And for the people that are ready to do those things, I have calls every day with someone saying, I want to make a change. I know it starts with my diet. And that's been huge to me because I take 12 years of experience to help people kind of see that. But I think Ocala has grown a lot, but it's always that little town that's accessible, that doesn't have a lot of traffic. I mean, outside of State Route 200 and I-75, exit 350 every day, there's an accident, I feel like. But we have, we have a lot of things for a lot of people here, and it's a big melting pot. There's not one demographic. We have everything from the young to the old here, so it's amazing to see everything kind of mold together. That we're not just, um, you know, there obviously we have the villages nearby, right? But we have like our on top of the world type thing where we have like a villages within Ocala, but we're able to also have children that live here as well. So it's nice to see different demographics kind of molding together. So I think for me, Ocala has been an amazing thing to see grow.
Yeah, no, Ocala definitely has been through a huge growth process, and I do think it's getting younger as time goes on. I mean, of course, we do have On Top of the World, but there's Kalesa, and there's a couple other communities too, all bringing in a lot of younger families. So I think the demographics starting to kind of shift a little bit. I do find a lot more younger people, or at least people that are not, 55 plus, nonetheless. Might
Yeah.
be like, in their mid 40s with no kids. I do like their kids are already grown up. I sold houses to a couple of those kind of people, but for the most part, I find that more and more young families are coming, which is good. And those people, I think that age demographic really cares about their health and they really want good resources. And I think a lot of people are learning that, these trendy nutritionists with their lovely detoxes are not going to work for you.
Yeah.
Not in the same way that you're going to, or even provide them like the level of service too. I think COVID kind of opened a lot of people's eyes to like service and like the importance of like good service and having that ability to talk to you and you doing nutritional therapy and being able to do all of those things with them versus somebody that can't do that.
Yeah.
I mean, they may try to do it, but they can't do it because they don't have the experience in it. So at the very end, what I do to wrap it up is I kind of ask, what's some advice that you would give somebody looking to do what you do, whether it be them being a dietitian or also, maybe opening up their own practice or maybe a combination of both.
I think the biggest thing is speaking specifically like to dietitians, right, in this space, right? I think when we're in school, we're kind of trained to be that clinical, more community-based person and someone that is kind of typecasted not to be able to do their own thing and be their own brand. I think that if you have a skill set and a ability to connect with people, and obviously becoming a dietitian, you have to get a master's degree. You have to go through all the training. Little people know that dietitians have to get a master's. They have to do, I believe it's 900 hours of supervised hours of a dietitian observing what they do before they can actually sit for board. So, I mean, there's a lot of work. So, I mean, if someone's looking to become a dietitian, um, it requires that like mindset that you're going to do all that work. And then going into private practice is having the confidence to talk to medical providers, understand what you do, niche down, which is what we call like obviously finding that area that you really thrive in as a dietitian. I'm a generalist, so I kind of focus on all healthcare, but the goal is to find that one area that you shine in, connect with people that either will refer to you or will help spread the word of what you do. And then you have the business model to be able to help kind of expand on that. But when it comes to general healthcare, anyways, if someone's looking to open up a business in private and doing healthcare, the biggest thing is keep connecting with other people in that same space. Put yourself in a room full of people that are entrepreneurs. Obviously, our Chamber of Commerce has an amazing, a lot of programs for entrepreneurs that are looking to grow. And that may be the person that like helps you kind of see the big picture of what you're trying to accomplish, but also give you the feedback like, hey, this is too much, or maybe you should focus on this. So, I mean, I think there's a lot of untapped things that dietitians can look into to do to grow into private practice. And one thing they can do also is to either mentor or be mentored by, work with a coach that does this as well. I work with people all over Florida and all over the US, helping them understand the business side of dietetics, but also how to stay true to what you're trying to accomplish in the dietetics field. I believe, and obviously, like you said, like the quality, the time spent. We don't have to be working 8 to 10 hours a day as dietitians to be amazing dietitians. And I think people need to understand that it's about the quality of what you're putting into people, and the outcomes that you see because of that plays a big value and obviously continue to build a brand and a business. So that's
No,
my
I think
mindset.
that you made a really great point that I wanted to expand on just a little bit before we completely wrap it up, is that dietitians do more than just basic food like care. Like dietitians can specify and like be in so many things, whether it's like sports medicine, whether it's like dealing with certain food allergies. Some of the dietitians are even like specialized in like homeopathic care mixed with dietetics. Like there are so many options, so many things that you can niche down in. I feel like UNF, where I went to school, did a really good job at it, and we kind of had that conversation
Hmm.
before. And I'm hoping that more schools kind of go that way to help people like really figure out like what they want to do, because there's so much to do in dietetics, and it's not just so like you have to be in a hospital and you have to be so clinical, or it's only such a short amount of options. So
Yeah, it's, and I think with the growth of a master's requirement, having a specialization with that master's degree, like I think that's the future of dietetics. So the biggest thing is I think when you're a student, is challenging you to what you want to do, and I think it's hard to sometimes determine like what kind of dietitian do I want to be. Like I always wanted to be a clinical dietitian. I didn't realize I was going to be the one that would like I would run my private practice and be an entrepreneur. But I think that there's so many avenues for it, and I've had people that diabetes is such a growing field, and there's dietitians that just do diabetes.
yeah.
People that help with kidney health issues, surgical dietitians that do only work with people that have surgery. There's just so much that nutrition plays a role in, and just weight management in general. Some people, and then there's disordered eating and therapy, and we play a big role in a lot of different types of things. And I think once dietitians realize that they can break the mold and do more, they realize that there's more value in what we do.
I really hope that that trend kind of continues and that I see like some growth in that, because I had like a lot of friends like that are, most of them all went clinical. I was kind of the oddball in the group that wanted to do like food service management. That's what I wanted to do. I like dealing with people, managing people, doing all that. So it's really not too big of a surprise that I went to like entrepreneurship. I kind of like always planned on that anyway. That was always an eventual goal for me, but I definitely stuck out in my like cohort. Most people were like clinical. I want to do like kidneys or this, and I'm like, okay, well, I just want to work in the kitchen. I was like, I only want to deal with food, but like on that way. So it was pretty funny. But I appreciate your time, Devon. Is there anything else that you wanted to add at the end here, like any events maybe you have coming up, specialties, anything extra that you want to add at the end?
Whew. I just want people to know that I own the company Vital Nutrition here in Ocala, and we're a team of dietitians. So we have someone for every type of person, and we also provide virtual and in person. So I think the biggest thing is knowing that we meet people where they're at. I think in their life, whether it's a busy mom who can't make it to the office because she's got 2 kids at home and is good at nap time to see us, or there's a child that wants their parents want to bring them in, and it's after school, or it's going to be a weekend appointment. We try to help people meet people's needs. But yeah, and I think we're here to help Marion County, specifically to help make sense of obviously health. So we're always available. The amazing thing is if you call my office, I pick up the phone. So the biggest thing is there's no someone in some other state or country talking to you. It's us. We're here. We're local. So I think that that's important that we stay true to being part of Marion County and helping here. So I'm just excited to continue to grow as a professional, but also grow my family in a place that I've been calling home for 12 years.
No, I think that's awesome, and I hope that I'm able to help you promote anything that you do. Just let me know. I'm always happy to promote it. You know, of course, I went to school to become a dietitian. I'm not one, but I did go to school to be one, so it's always close to my heart and something that I am passionate about and that I think is really important to the health of our community and really our country in in general sense. But I appreciate your time today, and thank you guys so much. I hope you guys enjoyed this really great episode. Feel free to check out Devon and all of his team and what they do there at Vital Nutrition. If you guys have any questions or anything comes up, just let me know. Always put them in the comments, and you guys have a great one. Thanks.